waking up to the sounds of hippos. I'm talking about that because I have a photographic memory, and then I was only 9 years old and living right close to the lake shore. Going to the lake shore, you'd be smelling fish. Today you go into the lake, you can't smell fish. Like many people have said, and like I saw it, the water was crystal clear. Between the hippo point and the boatyard, we had 3 pods of hippos. What's a hippo pod? That's a group of hippos with only 1 male and a couple of females. Today, between the boatyard and Dunga Point, we have a single pod. These pods are territorial. But why am I talking about the hippo? It's got a role to play. It had a role to play in the ecosystem. Where have they gone? Somebody has built, or people have built, all along the lakeshore. You're complaining about not seeing birds like the famous pelican or the red-knobbed coot, which I used to see every day, today gone. And they're the environment, the water quality indicators of the lake. The pelican is an indicator. The red-knobbed coot is an indicator. They're no longer there. Because of one thing, you chase the hippos away. Not only that, there's many things happening. But most important is telling you about how the lake was. I remember the Ngege, the famous Ngege. We had one, Ngege Makwar, and we had another one, Mbiru. I'm talking about Oreochromis esculentus and Oreochromis variabilis. Imagine today you can't find a single one in the Victoria Lake. Is it that sad? Look at it. Go to Dunga Beach today. I remember it from those days. I know it used to be deep inside, farther in. What you're seeing today, most of the younger generation, is extension of the lake that came with the El Nino of 1961, 62, 63. But who's polluting the lake? You've been told by many people. That's not what I want to tell you. I want to tell you that the lake was beautiful. I remember going up towards Nyakach, where my original home was, passing the Nyando River, seeing that water murky but not as brown as it is. Why is it brown? Somebody's cut the trees up there, carelessly. I'm wondering if we never had any policy those days. Today we have policies, then we didn't have policies. And let's look around. Who's living around Lake Victoria? Where did we come from? And when? Did somebody send us to come from the opposite direction? Remember the Nile flows out of the Victoria Lake? But we came along the Nile coming down towards the lake. Why don't we be proud that we were somebody somewhere, maybe God, decided to come here and become caretakers of Lake Victoria? I remember the days that fish was in abundance. You go down the lake shore, you're offered free fish. Isumi rech. Kisumu. What does Kisumu mean? Sumo. Sumo means be given. It's like barter trade or be given something for free. Somebody is giving you fish because you have come to see what he has catch. Think of it. I know it was protected by culture. And this is what we have lost. And I liked what Obat sang here, or what they sang here today. Because we were also told stories. Look at the birds migrating. And look at the Luo hitting the drums and mabatis that Nyawawa is going into the lake. The devils are going into the lake. Are they the devils? The informal restrictions that we had really protected the lake. These are birds migrating from up north or going back, and people are drumming that the ghosts are going to the lake. So people feared the lake and respected it. Somebody mentioned things like peeing in the lake, feces in the lake. Those days it was clean. I drank water from the lake. I'm talking about the lake with a passion. It's flowing in my blood because my father, the late Odongwadera, who was headmaster of Central Primary School up till 89, was tutored by the mother while my granddad was working for the Moi family in Baringo. And my grandmother used to sell fish, and that's how he educated my father. And here I am standing here talking about the lake. Today, you've made the lake a job option. Somebody talked about cage farming, or he did talk about cage farming. We're allowing such things. What future do we have of the lake? That place. Go to Takawiri today. That's in the open lake. You can see Kidogo bottom, but it's not as clear as it used to be. Many things. Maybe you don't know that around Rusinga, that causeway never used to be. They built it. The circulation of the waters couldn't take place. Okay, let's go back. Look at the rivers flowing into the Victoria Lake. 80% of them on the Kenyan side, that only has 6% of the lake, but from rich agricultural areas. Things can be done. The sad thing is that we have solutions, but nobody is listening. I remember this lake when it was frogs croaking. Who had a frog? Did anybody hear a frog croak yesterday? Maybe one or two. Where are they gone? It's us. It's the plastics. Why are you not talking about the mosquito? Because you fear it? Because it gives you malaria? It's only if you're careless. But what's the role of the mosquito? Where are they now? You're complaining about overfishing, whatnot. They're not there because they're not there, so the fish is not there. Ama mjui ati mosquito ni chakula ya samaki kubwa sana. Look at the whale, the blue whale. What does it feed on? Krill. How big is a krill? Almost like a mosquito. Let's people please, because of time, I won't really talk much, but let's people please move together and do something. Policy makers, please make the policies, let the policies be enforced. I won't talk politics, but it comes in a bit too much, and that's why our lake is being polluted. Let's look at one thing which we'll be looking at. Let's look at what pollutes our lake from Kisumu. Let's start from Kisumu and then move elsewhere. The River Wigwa. We'll be seeing it maybe in 2 days' time in the tele after we photograph what's happening in that river. But anyway, thank you very much for coming and participating.
Okay, now that Tom has told you about what the lake used to be, I bet you're wondering what happened, because personally in my lifetime, I've never seen a pelican in the lake, and I've only ever seen one crab. Most of our endemic species are either endangered or extinct. But so far we've only told you about what's happening here. But the truth is, Kenya may only have 6% of the lake, but we also have 80% of the rivers going into the lake and most of the breeding grounds. And those rivers, an example of a river is like the Nyando River. It goes through the Mau escarpment and passes through the Kericho tea fields At the tea fields, it picks up the pesticides, the factory output, it picks up the fertilizer, and this is all terrible for the lake. Which means that even what people do in Rift Valley is also going to affect what happens to the lake. The tributaries pass through the Rift Valley. So what happens all around Kenya is going to affect the lake. So it should not look like, since let's say I'm someone in Kericho, just because I live in Kericho doesn't mean I shouldn't take care of the river. And this is what we all need to learn. It's little known knowledge. Like, even for me, I found out recently, I didn't know that the rivers passed through Rift Valley, they passed through Kericho, and this is part of the problem. The people there as well don't know. These pesticides, these fertilizers, if they are able to kill insects, and such a large scale of them is entering the lake, have you ever wondered what it's doing to our bodies? What's happening to us? And another thing I've also realized is a lot of species are going quietly without noticing. Like personally in Osoma, the area where we live, there used to be plenty of squirrels. You couldn't go a day without seeing one run around or hearing one. The last time I saw a squirrel was in 2019. I didn't realize till I started looking at the species that were in the lake, then I realized that I've not been seeing them anymore. Where have the turtles gone? They are suddenly going away, even hippos. We kill them and villainize them, but they have an ecological role. Our rivers are getting clogged up. Why? The hippos are the ones that clear the rivers and keep water flowing. They stir up the silt. So with them gone, our fish are not able to breathe as well. Our breeding grounds are being flooded with plastic. The Mau forest is being cut. And when the forests are cut, the trees are part of the ones that stop the silt from entering the lake. Our wetlands are gone. We've killed most of them. An example in Kisumu is Lolwe. Lolwe is supposed to be a wetland, but right now it basically contains apartment buildings. Which means, and the wetlands role is to filter the water before it enters the lake. But we don't see their use. Which means with the Lolwe wetland gone, it's putting in more stress on the lake. Then we had the introduction of the Nile perch. It's cleared most of our endemic species. So what I'm basically saying in a short form is that we need to be educated and we need to learn that all of us have a part in what happens to the lake and all of us should treat it responsibly. And we should all know our rights and we should strive to protect the environment as well, because it's eventually going to affect us. Like a recent thing as well is the lake has been flooding. It's not only plastic, it's not only the dams. You have climate change. The glaciers are melting. The oceans get full. The rivers break their banks. Where does the water go? All these water bodies are connected. So if the glaciers are melting in Antarctica, the water is eventually going to end up in the lake. Places like South Africa are slowly becoming deserts. So in a sense, what I'd want to say is after this, we should all go and do our research, try to learn more about the environment and how it connects.
We mentioned very few species of those animals. Think of the crustaceans. Like I said earlier, every animal has a role to play. You heard me talk about even the mosquito. If we don't do something now, then this lake is going to die. We're lucky. The Nile perch was a problem, an equilibrium has been reached, and now we have other species coming up. But if we are not careful, and if we don't do anything which is meaningful, we, not me, we to mean everybody. Look at you eating fish in Nairobi. And then I ask you, the question is, do you know that the fish you're eating in Nairobi, if it's not from China, then it's from Lake Victoria? And if you are emptying your raw sewage somewhere around there, and it ends up in the lake, you are eating your own shit. Let's start learning these things slowly by slowly, and then grow it up so that we make this lake what it was, like I told you. The lake was beautiful. Such a time, you go around the lake, there'd be birds flying, eating insects. Today you go there, like yesterday we were at Usoma. How many birds did anybody see flying around the shoreline? The color of the lake should look blue, reflecting the reflecting the color of the sky. Yesterday it was green, algae. That's pollution. I think we ended up with that.
Okay, so thank you. And to wrap up, what I'd say is be aware, do your research, learn about your surroundings. Wherever you live, what you do plays a part in the whole ecosystem. Like, I'll give you a fascinating example. The rainforest in Congo is connected to the Kakamega forest. So is the forests in Uganda, they're connected to the rainforests in Congo. Which means, and even I didn't know that up until my geography teacher told it to me. We only have 3 main rainforests in the world, and they're connected to the rest. So we should all be aware, learn, and when we see a problem, we should try to solve it and protect our ecosystem. Because we are part of it, which means if it dies, we die as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that keynote.